Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the only podcast in India where we bring a new founder on every episode to talk about their journey and their story of building a startup. And today we have with us Mr. Nikkhil, who is the CEO of Entod Pharmaceuticals, which is an international research company which is into pharmaceuticals, and they have been doing this over 4 decades now. And they are experts into ophthalmology, ENT, and dermatology medicine. Hi, Mr. Nikhil. Welcome to ELI.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Priyaranjan, and it's a pleasure and privilege to be on your podcast. Thank you so much.
To start with, Nikhil, I would request you to introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about your early life background and what all things that you did over the years. Um, and then probably after that, we'll start talking about Entod Pharma.
So I'm currently the CEO of Entod Pharmaceuticals, and from the founder family. I did my pharmacy in early 2000s in the UK. I lived in the UK in London for almost 13 years, where I finished my education. I started my own research startup there. Learned a lot about research, about how to commercialize pharmaceutical products the Western way. And then around 2011, I moved back to India to be part of the family business.
Mhm.
And since then, along with the rest of the family, we've been, taking the company forward in not just in marketing sales, but in research and clinical trials and in genuine innovation. So I come from a technical background. I'm a technical researcher first and business person second. I had to learn the
Mhm.
ropes of business. When I came back to India with
Mhm.
my dad, and with under the family company. That's my journey really, and it's been an exciting one. I've learned a lot along the way. It's a long way to go, but I think we're on the right track.
Got it. Uh, can you give us a rundown of how has the company evolved over the years? Like, when was Entod started, and with what premise, why it was started, and over the years, how it has grown? Can you give us a story of that?
Sure. So Entod was started by my grandfather, Mr. G.V. Masurkar. He passed away around 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He was an entrepreneur in the pharma industry in the 50s and 60s. He was called as India's Crocin man. He launched Crocin in
Wow.
India. He brought paracetamol into India and made it into a big prescription brand. Then retired early from that company because he had a passion for specialty pharmaceuticals like eye care, ENT care, skin care. And he
Mm-hmm.
formed Entod, in late 70s, 1977. Um, Even our logo, for example, is it's an amalgamation of science and spirituality. My grandfather was a deeply spiritual person, but he believed that science and spirituality together can achieve, great results. And that's why the logo has an outer benzene ring and an inner lotus, the benzene ring
Wow.
signifying chemistry and the lotus signifying spirituality. Um, the word Entod also came about through the specialities based on the five human basic senses. So E for ear, N for nose, T for throat, O for ophthalmic or eyes, and D for derma or skin. So the
Mm-hmm.
five basic senses put together, gave about the name, the Entod, and my grandfather named it like that as well. So we started in 1977 as a contract manufacturer. We were actually one of the first few manufacturers for eye drops in India. And for
Mm-hmm.
that, I remember my granddad telling us he had to go to Germany to buy equipment, bringing them back here, uh, training the team, and then became a very well-known, trusted contract manufacturer for eye drops in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And not just eye drops, but injectables and skin products. In those days, we used to contract manufacture for FDC, and there was a company called Crossland, which does Volini at that time. They launched Volini.
Mhm.
So that's how it started. And then in the early 2000s is when my grandfather and my father, who was running the business at that time, they took a call that we will move away from contract manufacturing. We will have our own brands, our own marketing and sales, our own R&D, and we will expand uh, ourselves with our own brand. And that's when we started focusing on marketing and sales, and expanded to every corner of India. And then that's the journey we took on. When I joined the business in 2011, we had already expanded to most parts of India. So I took it upon me, along with my dad, to internationalize the business. So we started
Mhm.
going to other countries. We started spreading our wings globally. Started getting engaged in R&D, clinical trials, the innovation. Had a lot of new DCGI approved products that we commercialized, and we kind of took it to the next level. And
Mhm.
that's where we stand now, with a lot of potential moving forward in terms of the new research that is happening. So this is, in a nutshell, is our journey. I think I've covered quite a few things, but this is how we came about, right, from 1977 to 2025.
Got it. You went to UK for learning something that was probably what was not possible to learn inside the company-owned business. So, can you explain what extra did you learn in UK, and what sort of learnings did you incorporate into Entod?
So I studied pharmacy there, and one of the reasons why I moved to London to study pharmacy is because the course there was more research centric. It was
Mm-hmm.
more about more than just manufacturing and the technical aspect. It was about R&D, innovation, about clinical therapeutics, pharmacology. Those subjects were very strong in the pharmacy degree there. And that's why, and I was always very innovation driven. So for me, it was a natural fit to go there and study pharmacy. And that's why when I finished my M.Pharm there, I went into a research the organization. I was working there for 6 months, and then I started my own research company as well, which is still there now. It's still doing really well, and we do a lot of groundbreaking research there
Mm-hmm.
under this company. So that is why I went there actually. But I think now the pharmacy degrees here, the pharmacy courses here are changing also. There is a lot of research that is there in the B.Pharm and M.Pharm courses in India. And
Mm-hmm.
more will happen. I think that wave of innovation in pharmacy uh, courses has just started now. So I feel that, if I were to make a choice now, I probably wouldn't have to go all the way to the UK to study. So India is changing. The academic scene is changing as well. So it's becoming more fit for purpose for the pharma industry.
Got it. Speaking of India, I think India, as you rightly said, is changing. And one of the interesting fact about India is, especially after COVID, a lot of changes happened. India is now a superpower in terms of vaccine manufacturing, and I also read one interesting fact. The number of cataract surgeries happening in India is highest in the world. In fact, it's more than China, US, and other countries combined. And a lot of such groundbreaking work is happening at a grassroots level. Can you comment on the fact, like what other changes that you have been seeing uh, in India that nobody is talking about? And I think India is becoming a superpower in terms of pharmacy, medicine, and even the whole healthcare industry in general.
See, India was always called as the pharmacy of the world. So, in terms of manufacturing, we were always there when it came to generic manufacturing. We are one of the largest generic manufacturers in the world. One of the largest suppliers of generic medicines in the US, in the UK, and in Africa as well. So from a manufacturing perspective, we've always been very strong. Now, what is happening is from a research perspective, we are also becoming stronger. So a lot of R&D is happening in India in pharmaceuticals, in biotechnology, in biopharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
In the past 2 to 3 years, companies have significantly upped their R&D spend compared to revenue. Historically in India, if you see, not even 3 to 4% of revenue was being spent on R&D. That has gone up, not just from big pharma, but also from the MSME sector as well. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is very encouraging. So we are moving from a volume-driven pharma industry towards a value-driven innovation ecosystem with focus on high-value products, focus on genuine R&D driven products. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that will allow us to grow in India and will grow our pharma industry to the $450 billion mark that the government has set for us by 2047. And that will only be possible if we go full on when it comes to research. And that is happening. And I think people don't see that because they still look at our industry as a volume driven sector, which in many ways it is, but that is
Mm-hmm.
changing very fast. The ecosystem, the landscape is changing fast. Even our regulatory landscape is changing fast. And I think if we can go towards exporting high value products, the innovation driven products, then we will be able to reach that $450 billion mark. And I think we're on the right track there. So this is the change that not many can see. Being in the industry and also being involved with a lot of the pharma associations who deal with the R&D and innovation, and considering that the government is also has also rolled out many R&D schemes for for the pharma companies, especially in the MSME sector. I feel this change is happening now, and people are taking it seriously. And I think the pandemic has woken us up. Pre-pandemic, R&D was more like a namesake kind of thing, where people had to do to show that they're doing something different. Now it is
Mm-hmm.
serious. Now we realize after the pandemic that more or less when things go wrong, you're on your own. You need to be able to develop medicines from scratch and get them approved in a very short period of time, in times of pandemics. And I think that is why the R&D is given more seriousness now. And we are
Mm-hmm.
seeing that change.
Got it. Uh, Now coming back to Entod, why do you think you are a specialist in a particular segment, the ENT and ophthalmology and dermatology? Why did you pick this particular niche inside the whole pharma industry? And are there any differences between how you operate operate in this segment versus everything else?
So actually, if you look at our history, when my grandfather started Entod, he was always of the opinion that people don't focus too much on the eye care, on the ENT care, on the skin, and more emphasis is given on general health, on metabolic disorders, diabetes, cardiovascular, cancers, and rightly so. But people were not focusing in these areas, and that's why he's set up Entod. Today, that situation is even more realistic than the 1977, where our eyes and ears are under unprecedented stress and strain because of the advent of smartphones, overexposure of screens, noise pollution. Because of all of these, our ears, our eyes, all our senses are, under stress and strain.
Mhm.
And if nothing is done about it, you will see a lot of disease that will come along. Like, for example, in the eye care space, you're seeing a very high incidence of a condition called myopia, which is short-sightedness in children. Now, that has basically been triggered by lack of outdoor play because of our digital lives, lack of sunlight, screen exposure or screen to overexposure. That is increasing, almost, I believe that 1 in every 4 children in India is myopic. And if nothing is done about it, by 2047, 1 in every 2 children will be myopic. Now, what that does is that if myopia is not controlled, that could lead to early cataracts. So in short, with our population demographics, you will see more cataract surgeries in the future. You will see more early cases of glaucoma. You will see more early cases of retinal problems, for example. So our eyes are under kind of, you would say, under attack because of lifestyle changes that are happening. The same way, you're seeing a lot of higher incidence of cases like tinnitus, which is a condition of the ears where you have this ringing sensation in the ears. You're seeing a higher incidence of conditions like vertigo as well, which is
Mm-hmm.
ENT related, which again could be because of the pandemic, could be post COVID related. And I think these sectors haven't yet boomed. And I think in the next 5 years, 10 years, I think these sectors are going to see a great increase, and will be given probably equal importance to what we give to cancers and heart disease and all of that. And this is why it's a very exciting time to be specializing in these areas.
Got it. You spoke about the ophthalmology or the eye doctor industry. I was reading about it, and a lot of interesting facts came out. So this is one segment which sort of broke away from the traditional healthcare setup. Like nowadays, the eye doctors do not operate inside a big hospital. Instead, they have their own setups, small buildings, two floor buildings where they sort of conduct cataract surgeries or any other surgeries at a very minimal cost, probably 20-30,000 for one surgery. And what this is doing is, for a country like India, the healthcare is becoming very accessible. A surgery like cataract would cost somewhere between 10 to 20 lakhs in US and other developed markets, and compare that to what it is in India. So so this is one of the success stories of how healthcare can be accessible. What would you comment on that? What has happened in the ophthalmology industry? Can it also be done to maybe a heart surgery? I think a lot of innovations were also happening in heart surgery industry. There were very low cost stents that were developed in India, but somehow the industry is not able to innovate for the common people. It is not becoming accessible to the grassroots level people.
So if you look at ophthalmology as a sector in India in healthcare, I think it's a great success story. But it's driven by various factors. So one is that India has the largest number of ophthalmologists in the world. I think almost 23,000 ophthalmologists are there. And they're well spread out also, right from the interiors to the metros. So you see a good spread of access. I've been to villages in India where you'll have a really good eye clinic doing cataract surgeries as well, where there will not be other health facilities, but there will be at least an ophthalmology clinic there. So this
Mm.
has been one of the reasons. So the access, as you rightly pointed out. The second is the profession itself. So after the US, I think India is probably the most advanced when it comes to ophthalmic practice in the world. If you look at the kind of surgeries ophthalmologists are doing in India, it is on par with what is happening in the US. You have, the most advanced laser surgeries, you have LASIK, you have smile relics, you have the latest cataract surgeries using femto cataracts, femto lasers, and all of that. So it's very advanced in India. I've been to the US, I've been to the OTs in the US, and I've been all across here, and I know that it's on par. So
Mhm.
the profession has developed. The academics is very strong, the research backing is very strong. So I think we've done really well when it comes to ophthalmology in India. And in fact, now what is happening is that a lot of private equity funding is being poured into ophthalmology. You have hospital chains, the eye hospital chains across India, and that is also expanding. So what was that one or two story building that you talked about is now becoming four, five story buildings. It's becoming, multiple branches, satellite branches. so that we cover every kind of district of India. That is what is happening. You'll see it in the large the eye care chains as well. I mean, the way they're expanding, not just in the greyfield projects, but in greenfield projects as well.
Mhm.
So I think that is a success story. Now, whether it could be expanded to other areas of healthcare, I don't know. I mean, I know how ophthalmologists work and think. So I know it works there. Even in the ENT segment, the same thing is happening. You have these a lot of the ENT hospitals as well, all across India. That also is a success story. But I mean, I think that the number of cataract surgeries done in India is because of the access, right from rural settings to metros. And I think, and it's not just that. I've seen some of the best quality surgeries happening even in the rural settings. So there is no compromise. I can have an equally good cataract surgery done in Mumbai than in say in a small rural setting of Ahmednagar in Maharashtra.
Mhm.
So, that I think is the success of the ophthalmic healthcare industry in India. And I think it has a long way to go also. I think that will mature. You're seeing that maturity now. So I think that makes us very hopeful for the next, say, 10 to 20 years in terms of how ophthalmology and how our ophthalmic pharma industry would also go. It usually
Mhm.
follows the trend of cataract surgeries. And despite the access, there is still a lot of gap in cataract surgeries in India. So there are a lot of patients to still treat, and that makes it a very hopeful situation for all of us.
Got it. You mentioned Entod as a company is now heavily investing into R&D and specializing into that. Can you tell us about the whole logistic of R&D, especially for a company like India? How do you sort of create the formulations for new medicines? How do you do clinical trials? How do you get the approvals, regulatory approvals? Because it takes a lot of time to get those approvals. There is patenting, and it's a expensive business as well. So R&D, lot of big budget pharma companies in US are doing R&D. How do you compete against them? Uh, can you tell about that?
See, when a company like ours does R&D, we do it for almost one-tenth the cost of what would be seen in the US. So we are much more cost effective. Um, we have our DSIR approved R&D centers where we do our pre-formulation work, our formulation work, where the formulation is developed. And once the formulation is developed, we then go into in vitro studies or animal studies, whatever is needed. Then you go towards the human evaluation, which are your clinical trials. Depending on the nature of the molecule, you have to do a phase 2, phase 3 trial, and then after approval, possibly a phase 4. So the CDSCO has well-defined, an application process for new drug approvals, which every company has to follow. For us, not only have we approved new products in India that have already been approved previously in the US and other regulated markets, but also we have got approved, a medicine for the first time in the world. So even before the US. And I
Mhm.
think that is the way forward for India because a lot of medical conditions that you would see in India or would be a big problem in India may not be such a big problem in the US or in the West. So we need to have an ecosystem where you can develop world first therapies. And that is the area in which we are going into. Yes, it is a very bold area. It requires a lot of spend, but India is a huge market. In India itself, we have almost 900 million people who spend the full cost of the medicines.
Mhm.
That itself is a huge market and largely untapped. I believe our domestic market is still not reached its full potential, with the kind of demographics that we have. So this is where what we are doing now. We have got a lot of new approvals in the last, say, 3 years, and now we are working on three world first therapies. Once they are approved, commercialized in India, they will be there for the first time in the world. And then we will go to countries of the global south and be a global innovator for these molecules.
Mhm.
Especially, we'll go to those countries where these conditions are more kind of prevalent and where they require cost-effective medicines. And I think this is how Indian pharma can provide global leadership is by
Okay.
innovating and then commercializing these medicines at a very cost-effective, affordable price in these countries. US is always a reference for us when it comes to the innovation, but one of the issues with US-led innovation is the affordability and the access. We cannot
Mm.
access some countries of the global south simply cannot afford those medicines. Whereas when we do it in India, we look at affordability. So I think this is where India can play a part. And this is what we are trying to do, at least in our sector of ophthalmology.
And in your experience, how much time does it take to, let's say, I start formulating a medicine today and I go through with all the processes. By the time it reaches to the patients, how much time, how many years would have passed?
I mean, it really depends on whether it is a completely kind of an indigenous molecule, or if it is a
Mm.
molecule that is already available in, say, a regulated market. But on average, I would say around 3 years is how long it takes that would be the time to market. And in that time, obviously, you have to go through the patent application, the formulation, clinical trials, the entire process. And considering that that has to be put in front of the CDSCO, there are deliberations. It's a well organized, well structured approval process in India. So, there was a time when one would say that, oh, it's approved in India, it's not approved anywhere else in the world. Now, an approval from India has validity, it has credibility because we
Mhm.
know the kind of steps we have to go through to get something approved in India. It's not easy. It's not as easy as say some people may think of kind of may think about. So if an India approval in this day and age has a lot of value, but yes, it takes around 3 years minimum.
Got it. Let's talk about the marketing side of it. What is the logistic involved? Let's say you have launched a new product. What things would you do to make it accessible for the patient? How do you educate doctors about it? I think India is a very spread out market, especially the kind of products that you produce. How do you reach out to such a large doctor base, clinic base, and how do you make it sort of accessible in the medicine stores as well for buying it by the patients? So what's the logistic behind it?
So we have a very large medical representative field force, who are there in every corner of India. They promote the medicines, ethically to doctors. They also visit chemists to make sure that, availability aspects are looked into. They also help coordinating certain, academic kind of events along with doctors. So it's the field force that runs the ground marketing and sales, and then we have our head office teams also to coordinate the entire system, to push sales and to drive the brands forward. So that is how we do. That is from a patient perspective. Then we are very strong when it comes to academics as well. So we support a lot of genuine academics in ophthalmology, ENT, and dermatology as well, which goes hand in hand with what we're trying to promote, or at least the disease area that we're trying to talk about. And
Mm.
that gives us a lot of credibility, a lot of mileage. There used to be a time when a lot of academics were run and coordinated and supported by foreign companies, foreign MNCs. Today, we are doing it here in India. In fact, we are now doing academic events for companies, for medical associations and doctors outside India as well. So we're doing global academics. On the other hand, we also have to reach out to patients. When it comes to patients, you have to reach out when it comes to medical disease awareness. so that they are aware of the condition, so they end up going to the doctor. The awareness, especially the eye care awareness, has not been very strong in India. People don't really know what to do when things go wrong with their eyes. But that is
Mm.
improving now, and we are trying to do our best. We have our National Myopia Week campaign. We have campaigns to raise awareness of glaucoma, of cataract surgery, of retinal problems. So all of that raises an awareness of these conditions to with public, and then they end up going to their doctor and getting checked. So that entire ecosystem is run by us from our head office.
Got it. My final question here, before we close. I think in India's startup ecosystem, whenever somebody thinks of doing something, starting a venture, they usually shortlist a problem which is into finance or technology. I think not many people are aware about the big opportunities that are there in healthcare sector. And uh, if you can share a message to other entrepreneurs who are listening to us, uh, uh, s- uh, educating them about what are the large opportunities, large problems that are there in healthcare sector, that entrepreneurs can explore and probably create value out of it.
So I think the only message is that there are a lot of health problems in India which are not that common in the West. So we should not entirely go by what is there in the West and try and bring it to India and hope that it works. We have our own problems. We have our own problems, maybe genetically, maybe historically. And I think we need to identify where those gaps in therapeutics are. So I think in this day and age, money is relatively easy to come by. You have investors, you have banks, you have various forms of getting funding. I think the problem is the research mindset, the innovation mindset. So I think
Mm.
entrepreneurs need to have a pure innovation mindset, and try and innovate or come out with solutions for the next 10, 15, 20 years. I think that is the only way. And I tell this to everyone when I go to pharmacy colleges to talk to students, that, the hardest thing to adopt is a research mindset.
Mm.
And don't give up on that. If you have that mindset, you will innovate, you will come out with new therapies, and in the next 10, 15 years, you'll be a global leader in that field, in that segment. I'm not talking not just from a perspective of healthcare, but even in any other field. You look at IT, you look at artificial intelligence. Don't try and copy paste. Don't try and go into a me too business. Try and innovate, take calculated risks, because those risks, as long as your assessment is right and you have a good reflection of what is happening in the world around you, they will be
Mhm.
successful in the years to come. So have faith in your ability to innovate. I think that would be, the end message there.
Well, thanks for joining, Mr. Nikhil. It was a pleasure to have you on our platform. We learned a lot of things about pharma industry, how research is being done, and how India is evolving to become a pharma leader. And I think it's people like you who are doing it on the field. Kudos to you. And once again, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Mr. Priyaranjan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.